just sitting there? Just start! Hello everybody, I'm Noah Seitz, and this right here is the first novel I've officially released. Yes, I know. Admire it for a second. But I'm not here just to keep all of my writing knowledge to myself. I'm going to give it to you guys. Now obviously, the first thing you need to do is come up with an idea. Now unfortunately, this is the only thing I cannot teach you. But let me explain why. An amazing quote I once heard from a business teacher was, "I can teach you everything you need to know about how to run your business, but I cannot teach you the passion behind what your business is for. If you don't like hats, don't start a hat store. If you don't like mysteries, don't write a mystery novel." The most common place people get inspiration from is their real life. Were you broken up with? Write a poetry book about how you feel about it. Do you feel nostalgia about going to a childhood lake house? Then write about all the fun times you had there. Did your parents have a divorce? Then write a story about somebody not too different from your own dealing with the same experiences and pushing through it just like you did. I'm gonna use my novel as an example. I extrapolated certain aspects of the people around me, their stories, their experiences, and researched some of the things that had happened to them, and that is how I was able to write so much about a certain topic. The idea of my novel is as follows. Two teenagers who grow up in tumultuous households are able to meet one another through very fortunate circumstances and are able to have conversations with one another and talk with one another about all of the different things, and that builds their life up back from the bottom. Long Lost is a heartwarming story about the importance of being there for one another and the hope, determination, and optimism that goes along with it. However, other people may have a way different idea of what they want to write about in their heads. You may have a super advanced science fiction plot in your head that you just want to spew onto a piece of paper. Or you might be rich and successful and want to write a whole story explaining how you got there. Or a children's novel about a depressed carrot. Now I know some of this explaining might be monotonous for those who do have an idea already, but you gotta give the newbies a chance here. Step 1 is coming up with your idea, and step 2 is turning your idea into a full-blown thingamabobber. First off, who is this book about? Yeah, sure, in a little while we'll talk about plot and chapters and a colorful book cover. But if you don't have good characters or good voices in your novel, then who even gives a crap? And sure, if your weird poetry collection or selfish autobiography or boring nonfiction book doesn't need original characters, then fine, you can skip to this time code. Okay, now that all of those weirdos are gone, we can talk about how your characters need depth for the audience to care. How old are they? What do they like to do? How do they live their life? And most importantly, how do their emotions and personality affect the ways that they act later on in the story? The setting is also very important. When does this take place? Where does this take place? In the medieval times? In a desert? You don't want to write a book that takes place during the Great Depression and have somebody text their friends like, "Yo, I need to vent." That couldn't happen! This is all very important to get right at the very beginning. Hello all of my nonfiction friends, welcome back. The book I wrote has two leading teenagers named Sam and Scarlett. Now, spoiler alerts! Kind of, as I move forward. Not really anything too bad. Just some basic examples, you know. We know that if somebody grows up in a negative household, they're going to have some personality side effects that come with this. And we're also going to need to know about the parents and how they act. All of this character information is so important for the reader of your book to understand what's going on, and for you to build a deeper world within your book. Did your main character grow up poor? How do they act differently than other people? Does your main character have really religious parents? How does that affect the decisions they make in life? Is your main character an ice wizard who moves to Miami, Florida and has to learn what heat is? How is he gonna do that? Characters and setting are important. Another example is that, well, most of my book is told in the female perspective, and I don't know if you can tell or not, but I don't really have a lot of experience in writing about what their day-to-day lives are. So I made sure I did some research, and I asked around to make sure that the things I was writing about made sense, that the personality traits were accurate. And I've been told that, fortunately, I did quite well at this. Research is very important. Some people may be really good at planning their writing, but they may not be the best at actually starting. Well, in reality, I've found that if this is happening to you, then you probably aren't planning efficiently enough. Now believe me, I used to be the exact same way. I would just sit there with an idea and do absolutely nothing with it. But what I learned to do is expand my ideas. Sure, I have my main idea, but how does it actually happen? Your main character is a serial killer? Is he gonna kill someone someone on the first page, or is he slowly going to go crazy throughout the book? You're writing a novel about a tsunami? Well, is the tsunami gonna happen on the first page? Is it gonna happen towards the end? Is there gonna be a little bit of foreshadowing at the very beginning of the book of what the tsunami is gonna be like so the audience actually cares about the tsunami? What I personally did when writing this book is separate the different days of the story into different chapters, because my book only takes place over a week. Chapter 1 was day 1, Chapter 2 was day 2, and Chapter 6 was day 30. I'm just kidding. So I wrote down each chapter number, and I wrote a separate summary of what was going to happen on each day. For example, in my book, Chapter 1 introduces us to the character of Scarlet, and shows a bit of context surrounding the negativity we see in her household. Chapter 2 introduces us to Scarlet's friends, and how the way that they act leads Scarlet to meet Sam at a later time in the book. And etc, etc, etc. And from that point, you just have to keep expanding upon it. This is the biggest way to avoid writer's block, because you actually know what you're going to be writing about. You're not just willy-nilly writing and you hit a brick wall, because you don't even know what's gonna happen after this point in the story. In this concept, I will go into much depth in my second video. In the next video, we're going to be talking about a writing checklist, my favorite technique for writing a book, because it makes it more efficient and it makes it a lot smoother. What? I have to watch another video? Yes! There's 2 more. One on how to write the meat of the book and expand your ideas into a full story, and another about all the fun stuff like editing and finishing and making a pretty little cover. There's a lot more work than that you actually need to do to write a book, so watch them! If they're out yet. See ya!